Good morning, everybody. My name is Gina Ramsey. I am the president of Pink Dog Digital, and I'm here with two of my amazing teammates, Coral and Corey. And we are going to talk a little bit about AI today. I would hope that all of you will jump in and ask questions as we go along, as opposed to us just being talking heads up here. But we do have a lot of information, and we may wind up doing a part two of this if we don't get through it all, because there is a ton. So let's just start with a quick pulse check. Raise hands. How many of you have tried ChatGPT or another AI tool? There's Lissa, there's Michael. Oh boy, lots of people. And the second part of that question is, and cringed at what it's produced, because, yep, everybody has used AI, but some of the results have been not great. Five fingers instead, or six fingers instead of five. Um, Ludicrous answers. My husband did one. I can't remember what the prompt was, but the response was kill all the people. So it's not good.
Not a helpful one, no.
No, definitely. So we've all tried it. We've all had bad experiences, and hopefully today we're going to show you how to get some good experiences and avoid those bad experiences. But for Coral and Corey, before we dive in, can each of you share what this webinar isn't and what it is so that people can know what to expect today?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, what it isn't is a, know all about AI. It's not a tell-all. AI is big, it is vast. We are in the wild west of AI. Things are still very new. So we're going to be sharing tips and tricks and things, but this by no measure is going to cover everything you ever need to know about AI. And the other thing it isn't is it is not a catch-all marketing plan for using AI. This is basically how you supplement your AI supplement your marketing with AI while continuing on with a quality marketing plan, whether that's with us or on your own, whatever that looks like. It's all it is a supplement. So the main thing that this is going to go through is how you can use AI to supplement your marketing and how you can use it properly and make sure that it is working for you instead of spitting out absolute trash, which we find happens more often than not if you don't have a lot of experience with it.
Yep. Corey?
Yeah, and we're also going to be very realistic about uh the way that you can use AI, because I think that it's very easy if you're in the space and you have a little bit of knowledge about the major players. It's very easy to buy into the hype that this is like a major revolutionary way of basically changing the way that we interact in the world. And it definitely has a lot of potential. But you have to learn how to use the tools responsibly and understand exactly what it's capable of doing and what it's not. So we're going to try to clarify some of the buzz surrounding the tools and kind of take it a little bit more down to earth.
Brilliant.
And as Gina mentioned, please feel free to ask questions either in the chat, in the Q&A, whichever you prefer. We'll be happy to answer questions along the way. This is going to be kind of in a Q&A format anyway. Gina's going to be asking some questions. Corey and I will jump in to answer. So at any point, if you have some questions you want to pop in, please do. More than happy to answer. And if we can't get you an answer right away, if it's something we don't know a ton about, we can always get back to you via email. So please feel free to just jump in and ask what you got.
Perfect. And I reserve the right to jump in because I can't not. So so Coral, a lot of small businesses, and Corey just alluded to this, think that AI is the magic button. They can get rid of all of their team members and AI is going to replace their marketing person, their administrative assistant, their financial advisor, or not, their accountant, all the things. So why isn't AI an instant marketing strategy, in our space?
Yeah, a couple of reasons. First, AI is only as good as the person who is prompting it, and it only will give you what you ask it for. So that is an important thing to know is you have to know what questions to ask, and you have to have a kind of a really strong base knowledge of what you're trying to get out of it. The other reason it's not going to replace everybody is because it does take time to use. Yes, it is going to save you some time on anything that you're doing, especially marketing wise, but it's not going to save you all the time. It requires time, it requires energy, it requires knowledge. The other thing is whatever it's giving you is not going to be your final product ever. And if it is, then you've got a problem, which we will cover, a little bit later, but AI cannot give you a final product most of the time. What it is going to give you is ideas, a starting place. It might help you polish something a little bit, but it is never going to give you exactly what you need or exactly what you're looking for. Um, and I find this especially with photos and things, as Gina mentioned earlier, with like the six fingers or the weird hands or all of the weird graphics that AI has come up with over the years. People can see AI now. A lot of people will look at a picture and it's just not quite right. So it's important to make sure that you're still working with a team who has the strategy behind them or the information or your own internal marketing person, whatever that looks like. You still need somebody who is an expert to make sure that when they are asking AI questions or telling AI what they want it to do, they have the expertise to call it out if it's wrong and fix it, as well as to make sure that they have the right strategy implemented behind it.
So this isn't an instant strategy. You don't just ask a question and get a full marketing plan with all four P's of marketing covered and deliverables for your social media, for example. Talk a little bit about training, prompting, and the supervision in order to produce useful information and maybe give small definitions because I don't know that everybody in the room even knows what training and prompting is. A lot of them definitely don't know what a hallucination is. So let's talk a little bit about basic vocabulary and what that entails.
This is one of my favorite things about AI. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the training piece, and then I'm going to leave some of the prompting stuff to Corey because Corey's really good with prompting and understands prompting very well. My favorite thing to do is to train an AI. So I liken an AI to an assistant. It is a marketing assistant, not your marketing director, basically. It's somebody who's going to come in and maybe help you out with the little pieces that you need done. So training is a big part of it. So you're going to put a prompt in of some sort. And then when the prompt spits something out, a lot of times where people make the mistake is they stop right there. They pull the prompt, maybe they go make edits on their own, maybe they just stick it directly into social, whatever that looks like. But the problem there is at this point, if you make those edits, you feed those edits back and you say, hey, this is what you gave me based on what I prompted you. This is what I was looking for. This is how I edited it. Next time that you give me something, can you kind of emulate what I am giving back to you here? So I think the big thing that a lot of people miss is not interacting with the AI, but just telling it what they want the first time and then taking it out and doing whatever they do on the outside without taking that interaction back and making sure that they are consistently training that AI to know tone, to know information about your business, to know exactly how you like things written, to not use M dashes every 5 words, things like that. So it's important to make sure you go back and tell it what to do and what not to do based on what it gives you. And then Corey, I know you've got some good info on prompting, so I'll pass it over to you.
Right. So when we talk about a prompt, we're talking about the actual text that you put into the LLM or the AI tool to make the request, the query, basically. The best prompts do a few things. First off, you want to give it its persona, I guess, for lack of a better term. You'd basically tell it what it is. So, for example, if you're putting in a prompt about a advertising campaign, you would tell it you are an advertising expert and you know everything that there is to know about pay-per-click advertising, let's say. Um, that focuses its knowledge. It kind of tells it, here's like a basic framework that you need to follow. The second part is that you want to give it the information about the prompt that you or about the query that you want to give, basically. So if you're putting in uh, continuing with this example, if you were asking for ideas for A/B testing for specific headlines for a pay-per-click advertising campaign, you're going to give it a list of like the best headlines for pay-per-click advertising. Do the following: one, two, three, four. Um, and then the third part is that you give it the request. You say, please give me 5 headlines that I can use to A/B test against this particular headline. And you can also tell it what deliverable you want it to be. So you can say, I want it to be formatted in such and such a way. Like I want it to be in an unordered list, and I want you to give me reasons for why we should try this headline. Um, so it's more than just saying, "Hey, can you give me some headlines for a pay-per-click advertising campaign?" Like if you the more information that you give the tool, the better it's going to do with its final output.
Yeah.
Context, depth of information, background information. It's not a one-liner. It could be a page or multiple paragraphs of information to get the correct information out of the tool. Is that fair to
Corey
say?
shared a prompt with me recently that was basically to make AI not talk like AI. And the prompt was like, do you remember how many words it was? It was,
It was 1,200 words
yeah.
most of it was the every single AI writing cliche that you would be able to identify as an AI writing cliche, just like a complete list of that and say, don't do that.
Yep.
So
We
yeah,
actually
prompts
we
can get,
we actually got a tweet from Sam Altman, I think it was last week, where he was like, "Oh, now I can report that if you tell ChatGPT not to use M dashes, that it won't use M dashes." And it's like, well, why wasn't it following the instruction beforehand? Like, it doesn't make any sense, but okay.
yep.
Perfect. So that segues nicely into the next couple of questions. What kind of tasks or decisions is AI not good at? And do you have examples of some AI gone wrong that you've seen that you can share with the room? And this is a fun one because there's been a bunch.
Yeah. So one thing that we want to talk about a little bit are AI hallucinations. AI is trained to basically give you an answer no matter what. So if you ask it a question, I saw one, I think it was like, I saw it yesterday, I think, but it was why or how does adding crushed up porcelain to my baby's bottle help support their nutrition needs? And literally the prompt went through and it was like, it helps support their nutrition needs by providing extra XYZ, and it helps do this and that. And it's like, clearly you should not be adding porcelain to your baby's bottle. Like there's no question about that. So it's it is trained to give you an answer no matter what. So you have to be very, very, very careful about their answers that it's giving you. And occasionally you need to do your own outside research to make sure to verify what it's saying. So it's one of those things where if you ask it to give you something, it's going to give it to you no matter what. So making sure that you're double checking what you're asking for. Some of the other ones, I saw a couple other ones this morning. So in a New York federal court filing, a lawyer had used ChatGPT to cite cases, and ChatGPT made up cases to give it because it couldn't find any. So basically, the lawyer ended up citing a bunch of false legal cases in court, in a federal court, and got called out for it. So, I mean, once again, that is making sure, even if you're using ChatGPT, you're double checking what it gives you to make sure that it's real and verifiable, because if it's not, then you're going to run into issues of brand trust. A lot of times people are going to notice that you're not telling the truth and they're going to suss that it's AI, and people don't like that. So, um, Corey, do you have any examples?
My favorite example was when Gemini and the AI overviews were just starting to roll out last year, and we saw screenshots of people with pizza and adding glue to your pizza sauce or your cheese to make it gummier or whatever. Like that was my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the point about what it's bad at, I would say that if you, in general, anything that's creative focused, it's bad at. Like you're just if you ask it to do a creative task and you just take what it gives you at face value, it's going to be super generic and bland and boring. It's not going to have any of your personality or any sort of like sense of human creativity associated with it. Plus, as Coral mentioned, it will just flat out make up things if it deems that it needs to in order to satisfy the prompt. So it will make up statistics, it will make up reports, it'll make up law cases, anything that it can do to make a convincing case to you, it will try to do. So
So I have a couple of questions from the audience, and I can already see we're going to skip some sections of this because we're going to get down and dirty. So Janet asked, "I don't have a paid account with ChatGPT, but it still knows who I am and what I do. Do I need to give it a comprehensive description of my business each time to get the best response?" And I think this is part of that training that Coral was talking about.
yeah, you can actually, if you have a free account, you can go into settings and you can give it information about yourself and whatever sort of like general training that you want to give it. You can do it from the settings there. If you were using it as just standalone without logging in, then you would have to give that information every time. The easiest way to handle it is through a custom GPT, which it does require a paid account, but that gives you a lot more flexibility into how you end up training your specific GPTs. So I would check the settings and just give it all the information that you want to there.
Yeah, I don't think we have anything about custom GPTs today either, but I think we should definitely do something on that in the near
Well, I
future because I
said
do
this
love a
is
good
a
custom GPT.
That's why I said this is intro two, and we're probably going to do more on AI throughout the next several months. Amanda asked, "Can you just ask the AI if it made up the information it provided?"
I've never
I've never
tried
tried
that.
that.
We're always saying that we should just verify. So anytime that an AI pulls a statistic, we just go into Google and see if we can find the study that it's referencing. I suppose you could ask it for a reference and see if it gives it to you. And if you use GPT with research mode or thinking mode, it will provide sources for what it's pulling from. But you always want to check those too, just to make sure that it's not like misconstruing what the article that it's citing actually says.
Great. So let's shift into some practical tasks that AI can help you with, specifically related to marketing. What pair well with AI for teams, small teams?
Um,
So
oh, go ahead,
O-
Corey.
Okay. So any sort of analytical task, it's pretty good at if you give it the data to look at, and ask it to extract some insights. It's pretty good with that. Um, some of the low-hanging fruit of marketing, it's fairly good at. I'm thinking about creating an outline for a piece of content, taking a piece of content that you've already published and repurposing it into different forms. It's pretty good at. Keyword research is also very good. Competitor research and insights, taking piece of like long text, talking like, something that's 500,000, 1,500 words, taking maybe like a brochure and extracting the key points from it. It's very good with that as well. And and also any sort of brainstorming. If you need to generate ideas for content or anything like that, it's pretty good with that. Of course, you always want to make sure that you run it by a human just to judge to make sure like, okay, yes, we like this is fine, or no, we should add this to that in order to make it not sound as bad. Like it's pretty good.
Yeah, you just covered a lot of mine. Repurposing is a big one, I think, especially for marketers. And if you're looking to work with some of the stuff that you already have. So for example, like we'll take this webinar, we'll take the transcript from this webinar, we'll feed it into ChatGPT. We'll say, hey, we did a webinar on this. Provide me, 5 different ways that I can use this transcript from this webinar to create more collateral around small business tips or small AI tips for small businesses. And so then it's going to say, here's some ideas. Here's a blog article. Here's a graphic for social media idea. Here's this, here's that. So it's going to give you a bunch of different ideas. And then you have to take those and edit them down. And once again, go back and kind of train it on what you used it for, how you did it. But it's basically going to give you the ability to use something that you already have in a bunch of different ways that you may not have thought of, which can give you, it makes life a lot easier, if especially for people who are on the agency side and you've been working with a client for, we have a couple clients who've been working for 8, 9 years doing their social media. And sometimes it's one of those things where we're like, hey, here are all the social media posts I've done. Here's all the information about the client. Help me come up with something a little bit different and unique. And while it may not have the human touch on it right away, it's going to give you some ideas that will allow you to take it and give it the human touch to it. So that's definitely a place where I find it to be helpful.
Yeah, I just heard a webinar recently where they said we could take the actual video of this, feed it into AI, and ask it to create vignettes. So each question becomes one small video vignette with a transcript and a social media post headline around it. So there's some things. Oh, bye, Lauren. Sorry.
I got it.
Okay, thank you. So there's a lot of things you can do with existing content, but for content creators, how can AI help with outlines, ideas, drafting, but not replace the human? And where have some people gotten themselves in trouble with content creation? And Corey, kind of as a side note, can you talk a little bit about the case study that you did related to our content creation using AI versus human touched content creation? That was a lot. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, um, first part, which is, I'm sorry.
Ideas, outlines, drafting, but not
Okay.
replacing the human.
So, yeah. So if you give an AI tool a list of topics that you would like to cover, or any sort of like general areas that you want to cover, and ask it to provide ideas for blog topics or content ideas, um, what you can do is you can harness the power of the tool and the very basic way that it operates. Whenever you make a query in an AI tool, what it essentially, like, think of it this way. If you do a Google search, right, and Google provides you with the list of results, AI is like if you gave it a Google search and then it went and did 20, 25, 30 other Google related Google searches and scoured all the information at once and gave you the answer from that. And you can use that power to your advantage when you're thinking of topic ideas because you can you can ask it to do what's called a fan out query, which is the technical term for what I just described, where you take one search and then you do 20 other related searches to it, and you come up with topic ideas that way. As far as the human element, again, you have to kind of decide what's going to work for your business and what's not. Some businesses have certain um, areas that they don't want to talk about for whatever reason, and so you always want to double check and make sure that the output that that the AI is giving you is good for your brand. Um, and then the last bit, which was
Where people have gotten themselves in trouble.
where people have gotten themselves in trouble. This
I
is
have one for this
a
too.
yeah, so this is a think about it this way. The way that AI gives you answers, it relies on training data, whether that's from other websites out there or from its initial batch of training data, the terabytes and terabytes worth of data. Uh, AI can only give you content based off of that. If you go and publish that without putting it through a human review, it's going to sound exactly the same as any other person that gives a very similar prompt. The content's going to be very similar. So you're going to run into issues with duplicate content. Thinking about, there's even the potential, and this is theoretical, although there are court cases, right, with the way that publishers are suing AI LLM companies for pirating and using copyrighted material. So every time that you ask ChatGPT to generate content for you, you run the risk of copyright infringement unless you put it through a manual review process.
Yeah, also, um, so Chicago Sun-Times earlier this year and the Philadelphia Inquirer both published summer reading lists of fake books because they, asked to get a list of books for kids or adults for the summer, and the books weren't real because they didn't go through and do that manual process. So that's how you're going to get yourself in trouble. And the other way is a lot of brands are relying on it to model their clothes or whatever it may be, and people recognize AI models really quickly. And they're going to look at that. That's going to break brand trust very, very fast. So if you're using it for marketing, just make sure that it's always going through a human review process of some sort and that it's not often not just the person who's creating it necessarily, because if you're doing it on your end and you want it to be done quickly and you just want to get it out, you're going to look at it and you're like, oh, that's probably good enough. But maybe run it by a second person, especially if it's a photo, just to make sure that you're not putting out something that's going to make people immediately uncomfortable or distrustful of your brand.
So I hear all the time, I don't need your services. We're just going to write our blogs through AI. I don't need your social media services because we're just going to have AI create it. Corey, you did a study on blog articles written solely by AI, and the second piece of it was touched by humans. Can you talk about the results of that test we did? You
Yeah,
did?
it was
I didn't do
it
anything.
yeah, it was very interesting. So we did it on our own blog. I did a month's worth of blogging of all AI written blogs. And then I did another month's worth where I did AI assisted blogs, basically, where I would take the text that it gave me and then I would rewrite it, basically in the style that I write the blogs in. Um, and I believe the number was something in the range of like 3.7x more views on the blogs that were written by with human assistance compared to the ones that were purely written by AI. So immediately you could see sort of the cost of using AI to write content exclusively. Yes, it's very good at doing things at scale. It's very fast. It can do it, but you're not going to get as much value. And I think that over time, relying too much on AI content is just going to push businesses further and further down in uh, search results, which we tend to forget when we talk about AI, but Google is still setting records every month for the number of searches. So it's not like Google is dying. Like people are still using Google a lot to get information.
SEO is not dead.
So
Yeah.
that great segue. SEO is a huge need for small businesses in particular, and AI can help with that, and it can also hurt that. So can we talk a little bit about SEO in general? Because again, I see people all the time write a blog about how to keep foxes out of your backyard in winter, and then they just copy and paste, whack it into their website, and away we go. So, why is that a bad thing? How can it hurt? How can it help? Keyword expansion, blog outlines, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
you can use it. Oh, go ahead.
uh yeah, it's tough because again, you can get a lot of content written through AI, but it's not going to have the human creativity that your brand needs to project in order to connect with your customers. It's just going to sound pretty soulless and corporate and not in your brand voice. And given that branding is such a huge part of marketing these days, it is almost the entirety of marketing. In order to stand out, you need to be very strong with your brand. Um, Doing so is just going to be a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. Cora, I'll let you go then.
Yeah, the other point here, as far as SEO goes, is you're going to run into duplicate content issues, as Gina mentioned earlier, because if you're putting in a prompt that is very similar to something somebody else is putting in, if you're not great at prompt engineering, if you're not training it, you're going to find that you're getting duplicate content from what someone else is doing. You're popping it up there. Google's going to ding you for duplicate, or Google can also recognize when things are written by AI, and it's going to come back and say it's going to ding you for having something that's completely written by AI. So while it is valuable to have it help you with outlines and things like that, it's not at all useful for doing the complete right, because you're going to find that Google is going to take you down every single time. And, Corey proved that with the articles that he did in a couple ways, because people don't like reading things that are purely AI. And if you're looking at an article and you see, 20 M dashes, and you see a bunch of ordered lists, and it's just very clear when something is written by AI anymore, especially because it uses the same introductions, it uses the same, all of it. So while you can use it, and you should use it for certain things, like helping you write the outline, helping you make sure that, you have the information, all of that, you just have to be really careful about just popping it in and using it as SEO, because it's not going to work for you that way. It's going to actually harm you more than it's going to help you if you're not careful.
So, to that end, what is Google's stance on AI generated content, and what does that mean in practice to small businesses?
Google doesn't want you to use just AI generated content. um, Corey, you can go elaborate a little bit more on this, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So this is a question that we get often. And Google's actually answered. Google is not specifically against AI generated content, which sounds crazy, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that because, again, like I mentioned before, if you put a query into an AI tool and ask it to spit out some content, it's going to spit out some content, right? Any other person, any other company or marketer or whatever that puts in a prompt that's very similar, if you're asking for, I don't know, 5 reasons why your pipes freeze in the winter, like for a plumber. Any other plumber that puts in that prompt to write a blog about the 5 reasons why pipes explode in the winter, they're going to get very, very, very similar content. And what does Google prioritize more than anything? EEAT, expertise, experience, authority, trustworthiness. If you have 20 plumbers that all have very, very similar content on pipes exploding, what does that tell Google? It tells it that there's nothing helpful for the user in any of these blogs because we already indexed the main source that it pulled all the information from. So indirectly, we can say that AI generated content as it is, not, obviously if you do human assistance, you're going to put in some insights, some regional information, your brand voice, all that's you can add value to what the AI spits out. And therefore you give it a better chance of indexing, which is what we proved with our case study. But if you just take content that the AI gives you and put it up on your website, it's just not going to do anything. I mean, it might hurt you because you might get dinged for duplicate content, but at best, it's just going to sit there.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what he elaborated on what I was trying to say much better, but yeah, that's what I was going for. Google doesn't want you to do purely AI content because it doesn't give you people any actual value. That's the main thing, is it wants you to be providing value. So
Okay. So I know a lot of people came here because they want examples of how they can use it. Can we show some or describe some practical examples of how AI can successfully be used in marketing?
yeah, absolutely. So one way I like to use it, it depends on the tools that you're using. So one tool that we use that a lot of our clients are probably familiar with is Heyorka. We use it specifically for our social media clients. But one thing that Heyorka does is it allows us to it has an AI tool built into it. So first of all, it's nice because Heyorka allows us to schedule posts out. So that in itself is kind of an AI piece that you don't really think about, but that's part of it. So one practical area is that you can pop your ideas. If you come up with ideas using ChatGPT, you can pop those ideas into a Heyorka post. You go in there and it gives you the little AI prompt and you say, hey, I would like to do a post about XYZ. Here's the information about, what we're doing. And then you also have the ability to upload the brand voice in there. So it basically allows you to take the whole thing, gives you an AI prompt. It spits out a caption with a bunch of different options for emojis, and you have 2 or 3 different caption options. And then you go in and you kind of edit it and tweak it and you get it out. So it allows you to basically write that post without having to sit down and think through every single word you're going to write in that post. But it's you just give it the idea, it writes the post, and you tweak it. Another big place that it's good to do that is, we mentioned social media in general, but going into ChatGPT and saying, so for example, I did one, provide 5 social media idea posts for a digital marketing agency based in Baltimore. The agency provides full service digital marketing with a focus on social media and SEO. The tone is a bit irreverent and playful while also being fun. This agency also prides itself on customer service and providing quality information to clients. Do not add any posts referring to X, as the agency doesn't promote this platform. So basically what I did here is I asked it to give me some ideas. I told it what I do, where I do it, how I do it, and then I told it specifically what I do want and what I don't want. It's a very short prompt as far as prompts go. It's not going to give me everything that I want out of it. But what it is going to give me is 5 ideas for social media. So it gave me, SEO Mythbusters Baltimore edition. Do a carousel busting common SEO myths that you hear from local businesses. That's probably something that we would do. So basically what it does is it just gives me a bunch of ideas to work with that I may not have had previously. So for marketing, it's a great idea generator. It's a great place to get started. And then you can take that and you can kind of workshop that by training it. And that's how you get into the next piece of, hey, I like this idea. Help me write a post based on this idea. And then it'll help you write the post. You edit the post, you have a graphic to go with it. So that's one way that we use it to, maybe save time and be able to do that. Corey, do you have some examples too? You're a little more
I
on the
think
data
that,
side, so.
yeah, I think that my biggest win with AI has been with generating ad assets, it giving me ideas for PPC. It has done a really good job of helping me scale kind of the work that I do on the back end of PPC by giving me a ton of different headline, description, caption ideas that I can then take, look at, review for compliance issues, brand voice issues, any sort of local signals. and then I can take those ideas and test them within the ads platform. So it's been very good for me for that. It also coincidentally helped me write the first case study for our agency because I'd never written a case study before. So I went in and asked ChatGPT like, "Hey, I'm writing a case study for my agency, but I don't really know how to format it. Could you like give me a rough like outline of what I should like how I should format it?" And it gave me a pretty good uh, framework that I could use as I was creating all the writing the assets basically myself. So um, those are very good use cases that I think any SMB would be able to use.
All right, we're
Yep.
using a lot of initials. How about we explain PPC,
Uh,
SMP?
pay, pay per click, SMBs, small and medium sized businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We get lost in jargon, and I never want to do that. I spoke at an event once, and somebody complimented me on not using jargon. So we've got to be clear on that.
Yeah.
Um,
I started a job a few years ago prior to working here, and in that job, they used initials for literally everything, every single thing that they did there. And I remember sitting in on my first meeting that day, and I was like, I don't think I learned anything today. It's just all initials, but I know we can get lost in it sometimes because we spend every single day in it. So if you ever need us to slow down or clarify something, please also drop that in the chat, and we're happy to do that.
yep, no dumb questions, I promise. Let's talk a little bit about the platforms because there's a million of them out there. I just found one yesterday that I might be able to start calling this person my new friend because she talks to me and I talk to her. Um, what are the platforms that you guys are using regularly that you like and why?
Corey, you can go first.
ChatGPT. It is the most flexible platform, I think. There's a lot of good work that's already been done by people that are much smarter than me at creating custom GPTs. Um, and it's just a very versatile system. I'd say if you were looking at any system that you wanted to dip your feet into, just pick one and stick with it because a lot of the tools operate very similarly. And you can transfer a lot of what you learn from, say, ChatGPT to Gemini or something like that. But in general, I find that ChatGPT is the most useful by far.
Yeah, for marketing, I agree. I also use ChatGPT a lot. I like Gemini a little bit better sometimes for creative type stuff. If I'm doing anything creatively with it, I find Gemini works better for that. But I do like ChatGPT. And then the one I use, kind of a bonus tip just for work. I find that if you're spending a lot of time in meetings in general, whether that is for marketing or for something else, Read AI has been amazing. Or I know there's a lot out there like Otter, a bunch of others, but I use them a lot to help me with my meetings, to take notes, and to help me draft follow-up emails to save me some time. And obviously, I edit all of my follow-up emails and I check my notes, double check based on conversations. But it definitely saves me time and helps me remember things that I may not have cut otherwise. So, just as a bonus tip, one of my absolute favorite AI tools is definitely Read AI right now.
Okay, great. I want to allow time for questions. So if you have questions, please start filtering them into the chat or to the Q&A so we can field those. But while we're waiting for people to do that, what are some things businesses should stop doing with AI right now?
Letting it create graphics for you and then just using them. Graphics and images. I hate using AI for graphics and images. And I mean, I might use Canva to create an AI image that I am then going to manipulate and edit and help work the graphic. But I'm never just going to go into ChatGPT and say, hey, give me a graphic. I actually recently did something like this for a client just because I wanted to see what would happen. I didn't keep it, I didn't use it, but I needed a timeline in a graphic form for a client, and it spit out the timeline. But I sent it to Corey right afterwards, and it was one of the funniest things I've ever read because all of the words were spelled incorrectly. And while the graphic was right with the timelines, the words were all spelled incorrectly. They were in the wrong spots. It was very funny to look at afterwards. And so it's just one of those things where you never want it to give you a graphic because it's not going to do a good job of it. It might give you a good starting place if you know how to use something like Canva or Photoshop or whatever it is to create your own, but don't use it purely for graphics and photos because it does a trash job.
And I would also add on to that, please don't use AI graphics or images for your website. We have one client that the images are so clearly AI generated. There's a graphic of a fish on a plate, and it's the color that no fish in nature ever has been, nor will ever be. And anybody looking at the graphic is like, oh, that's definitely an AI image. So you're going to get caught. And if I go to a website that the images are done in AI, that just tells me that the client doesn't really have product that they can showcase because they're using made up product.
I want to caveat this because this is important mostly if you're B2C or if you're a B2B product provider. We have AI photos on our site, but they are dogs and they are clearly dogs. So there are times when I think it works, but you have to be very specific about it. Don't ever try to AI a product if you have a real product, because people will know that it is not your real product.
Correct. And this was an e-commerce site selling food related products, and the food wasn't food, it was fake food. Yeah. So that's a great explanation, Coral. Corey, what should people stop doing right now?
Stop asking AI for content and then just publishing the content without editing. It sounds so like it sounds so bad.
Mm-hmm.
If you, it's just it all sounds the same. It all uses the same cadence and narrative, and I'm just so tired of reading AI articles. And I can tell I know I'm in the space, but like it's how can anybody read this and think like, oh, I my 5 minutes reading this was time well spent. Like it's like I want that time back.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. Um, what are one or two smart and practical uses outside of the marketing space? How else are you using AI in your day to day, whether it's in your job or in your personal life, that people can take away and try today?
Yeah, so I mentioned Read AI, which I use a lot for work. But I have it to help me write follow-up emails. And the other place that I really use it for work too is to help me create task lists and figure out what my next steps are for things. So if I've got, I had a 2-hour meeting with a client recently where they went through a bunch of different changes and things that they wanted made. And while I made the notes myself, it also helped because I had the transcript from the meeting based on the Read AI that I used. I copied the transcript, I pasted it in ChatGPT. I said, hey, what are the action items from this meeting? It spit out all the action items. So between the items that I had noted and anything that I might have missed on a 2-hour call, it spit all of that information back out for me so that there was no chance that I was missing what the client had asked of me. And then kind of on a personal level, I find it helpful in other ways. I recently had a family member of mine had a really bad health scare, and we were trying to figure out, what questions do we ask the doctor related to this health scare? What do we do as far as, what are our next steps to make sure that we can help him if we're at the end of days and we need to figure out the lawyer that we're talking to, this and that and the other thing. I've never dealt with that before, so I had a lot of questions. So that was a place that I could ask ChatGPT, hey, what are some questions that I should ask the doctor based on this prognosis or this diagnosis? And then what are some things that we need to look at next? And it basically spit out a bunch of things that were just helpful things that I hadn't ever had to come across before. That was quicker than me going and doing a Google search and reading 5 or 10 different law websites or 5 or 10 different other websites like that. So it can be useful for answering questions when it's something that you don't know a lot about, that there is a lot of information out there about, to aggregate it all and basically give you a quick answer.
Corey?
I've got two. So first, product recommendations. I've used ChatGPT in my personal life to help me shop for items, mainly because there's a lot of qualifying information that you can give ChatGPT that you just can't give Google. So I gave the example, I think, in the past webinar that I was shopping for a bag for like a new backpack, basically, and I gave it all of the qualifying information. Like I wanted it to be made out of this specific material. I needed it to fit a 16-inch laptop. I needed it to be good for travel, and it needed to be under $150 or whatever number it was. And you could get pretty good product recommendations because that's one of the major things that ChatGPT and other AI tools utilize when they're giving recommendations is client or customer reviews from various sources. And then the second thing, it I've used it basically for any search where I didn't feel like Google was going to be sufficient for the job. So well, you guys know I'm moving to Japan in January, and I had a question about how do I bring in enough prescription medication to cover my stay there, and Google really wasn't helping me very much. It was giving me a lot of old websites and old information. So I went to ChatGPT and asked it basically like, what do I do with my prescriptions for this trip? And it actually was useful. It gave me the website of the immigration authority and all the information that I needed. And also gave me a step-by-step guideline, like here's the timeline for how you should follow this and how you should do this. And so it was massively helpful for that for me. So
Yeah,
And one more marketing tip real quick before we wrap up, that Corey and I have talked about on previous webinars, I think, is one of the best things that you can do is ask ChatGPT about your business. Go in and say, hey, what are people saying about my business? What are, some similar businesses that are like mine? What are people saying about them? What are these businesses doing that I'm not? Look for the holes. Just ask it, and then ask it, am I showing up for certain things? Just talk to it. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of what ChatGPT is supposed to be, or Gemini, or any of these AI engines, is you can ask them questions about your business and it will spit out the answers that it has. And when it does that, it gives you a really good idea of where your base is. So that allows you to kind of optimize better for AI, but it also gives you an idea of what the sentiment about your business is across a variety of platforms, from Google reviews to social media to other websites, wherever you might pop up. So it's a really good idea just to kind of go into ChatGPT and ask it about your business and see what it tells you.
yeah, piggybacking off that real quick, one thing you could do is put yourself in the persona of your ideal customer and ask it the question that you think that person would ask ChatGPT. Like, if going back to the plumbing example, like you could ask it, what are the best plumbers for burst pipes in Baltimore? And it will give you a list. And then you can go back in and say, why didn't you recommend my company? And you put in your company name, and it will tell you like, oh well, it didn't have enough reviews on Google, or it's not clear from the content on the website what that it has enough social proof or something along those lines. It will basically tell you like, here's why I didn't recommend it. It gives you pretty much like a roadmap as to what you need to look at to improve.
yeah. And one tool or one exercise that we performed when we were building our new website, most people say they hate the content on their website. There's either too much, there's too little, it doesn't say what they do, it hasn't been updated, whatever. We put in our website as well as three of our competitors and asked ChatGPT to compare and contrast the content on the two websites in terms of messaging, reliability, a number of factors. And it came back with, you talk about this, but they talk about that. And it was interesting because our website 100% talked about customizable solutions. where all these other websites talked about their age and how long they've been around, which, yeah, that's great, but that doesn't really give anybody a reason to buy from them other than they've been around a really long time, but it doesn't mean they're taking the time to give solutions that people need. So doing a comparison and contrast on, or compare and contrast on you versus your competition can give you an idea of where you're missing messaging or they're missing messaging that you can capitalize on. We have just about run out of time. I know we haven't hit all of the points that the people in the room would like to talk about. So I would encourage you to send me an email, Gina@PinkDogDigital, if there are things that you want to hear us talk about, whether it is AI or anything else, but we would like to make these valuable to you, not just us talking about the things that we happen to find interesting. So if there are some topics, or if you'd like, AI 2.0, we would be thrilled to customize these webinars to you. We will be recording, well, we are recording these. It will be on YouTube for later viewing for those of you that either were answering emails while you were listening to us, or the people that had to jump early, or you'd like to share it with someone else. And if you have any specific questions about your business, your marketing, your AI, we would be thrilled to have that conversation with you. Anybody?
No, thank you guys so much for attending. I really appreciate everybody who came out to kind of watch and listen today. More than happy to answer more questions. And if you'd like to see a part 2, let us know. We'll probably get a part 2 scheduled maybe for, I would say, January. I'm not sure if we're going to do one in December with the holidays and everything, but we'll definitely get a part 2 going as well. And we love to talk about AI, so always happy to do it.
Corey, any final words?
Just be careful with it, with the AI. It's very good. It's accelerating what you do, but you always gotta trust or you always have to not trust and verify everything. So
agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. If we do not see you, I wish you happy, healthy, wonderful holidays, and we'll see you maybe in December, but definitely back in January.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.